All right, let's talk about something that's, well, pretty much invisible, but it acts as a silent guardian for your health. It's the whole reason those numbers on your lab report are numbers you and your doctor can actually trust. We're going to pull back the curtain on the Westgard rules. I mean, think about this for a second. Your doctor looks at a lab result to make a diagnosis, to prescribe a medication, maybe to decide on a huge course of treatment. A single number can be the difference between, I'm okay, and we need to talk. That is a ton of pressure on labs to be right. Not just most of the time, but every single time. So how do they do it? How do they catch a tiny mistake before it ever gets to your doctor? Well, the answer is they use this incredibly powerful statistical safety net. It's this system that's always running, humming along in the background of any lab worth its salt, and it's constantly checking for quality and precision. And that system has a name, the Westgard Rules. They were developed by Dr. James Westgard, and you can basically think of them as the lab's official rulebook for quality. They use statistics to keep an eye on the testing process in real time, flagging when something, literally anything, might be going a little sideways. So, why do we keep calling them a guardian? Well, because their entire reason for being is to protect the integrity of your result. By using these rules, labs can make their tests way more accurate. They can make sure the results are reliable today, tomorrow, next week, and the big one, the most important piece of the puzzle, is that they protect patient safety by stopping a bad result from ever walking out the door. Okay, so what's actually in this rulebook? It's not just one rule, it's a whole set of specific checks. Each one has its own little code name, and each one is designed to hunt down a different kind of problem. So, let's meet the key players on the team. First up, we've got the 1-2s rule. Think of this one as the lab's yellow light. It's a warning. It gets triggered when a single test result is more than 2 standard deviations away from the average. Now, standard deviation is just a fancy way of measuring how spread out your data is. So this rule just flags a result that's starting to wander away from the rest of the pack. It doesn't shut everything down, but it's a heads up to say, hey, pay attention and check the stricter rules. Okay, if the last rule was a yellow light, this one is a big flashing red light with a siren. This is the 1-3s rule. If a control result pops up that's more than 3 standard deviations away from the average, whoa, that is a major red flag. It's a really clear sign that something's probably gone wrong, either a big random error or some kind of system failure. When this rule gets broken, the run is rejected. Full stop. Time to investigate what happened. The 2-2s rule is a pattern spotter. It gets flagged when you see 2 results, one right after the other, that are both more than 2 standard deviations away from the average and on the same side. You know, this isn't just a random fluke. It suggests the whole system is slowly starting to drift. It's a classic sign of what we call a systematic error. Now, the R4's rule is a pretty interesting one. It doesn't care so much where the results are, but about the range between 2 of them back to back. So imagine one result is way up high, and the very next one is way down low. If the gap between those 2 is more than 4 standard deviations, yikes. That signals a major issue with precision and points right at a random error, just a lack of consistency. Here's another pattern spotter for you, but this one's looking for a much more subtle trend. The 4-1s rule triggers when you get 4 results in a row that are all on the same side of the average and more than 1 standard deviation out. It's a super sensitive little alarm that tells you a small systematic error might be starting to creep into the process. And finally, we have the 10x rule. This one is probably the easiest to picture. If you get 10, count them 10, results in a row that all land on the same side of the average line, yes, something's off. Even if they aren't that far off, that kind of streak isn't random. It points to a clear bias or shift in the system that needs to be fixed. So we've met the whole team of rules, but what are they actually fighting? What are the bad guys here? Well, these rules are specifically designed to detect 2 fundamental types of enemies in the lab: systematic errors and random errors. And this is where it all comes together. A systematic error. Think of it like a scale that's always off by 1 pound. It creates a consistent bias, a slow drift. And the pattern spotting rules like 2-2s, 4-1s, and 10x are perfect for catching those. A random error, though, is totally unpredictable. It's like a sudden power flicker that messes up just one measurement. It causes scatter. And that's where the big, dramatic stop-everything rules like 1-3s and R4s come in to catch it. So you've got all these rules. How does an actual person, a lab tech in a high-pressure environment, use all this? It really all comes down to a clear, logical workflow. It's their daily playbook for making that critical go/no-go decision. And here is that playbook in action. First, they run their quality control samples. These are samples where they already know the right answer. Then they check that yellow light 1-2's rule. If everything's cool, great. The system is stable and they can report patient results with confidence. But if that warning light flashes, they don't panic. They just move down the checklist and look at the hard rejection rules. If any of those are broken, it's a hard stop. The run gets rejected and the detective work begins. What's so brilliant about this is that it prevents overreacting to tiny blips while making sure no significant error ever slips through. So when you put it all together, you have the rules, the error detection, that decision flow. The impact is just massive. It all leads to one incredibly important outcome. The ultimate victory here is trust, plain and simple. These rules make tests more accurate, meaning closer to the true value, and more precise, meaning you get the same result over and over. They let labs find problems early, long before they become critical. And this whole rigorous approach is what allows them to maintain the absolute highest quality standards, like ISO 15189. At the end of the day, it's the lab's promise to you that the number on that report is the right number. So, the next time you see a lab result, just take a second to remember the invisible guardian, the Westgard rules, working hard behind the scenes. This whole system is a promise of precision, brought to life with statistics. And you know, it kind of makes you wonder, right? What other invisible systems, what other rule books and safety checks are out there quietly protecting us in other parts of our lives every single day?
Like, share, and subscribe.